Most people assume that if they sleep 7 or 8 hours, their body has recovered. But you still wake up with low energy and mental fog. It's not the number of hours you slept. There's a layer underneath that almost nobody is looking at. It's the quality of the signals the brain receives while you are asleep. One of the strongest signals shaping that quality is light. A surprisingly small amount of light, especially blue light from phones and screens reaching your eye during sleep, can change how your nervous system behaves overnight. The brain interprets light as a potential daytime signal. When that happens, parts of the autonomic nervous system remain slightly activated instead of fully shifting into recovery mode. You may still sleep, but physiologically, your body may never fully shift into its deepest recovery state. Today, I want to explain what nighttime light does to your nervous system, energy, metabolism, cardiovascular health, recovery, and how simple adjustments to your environment can restore the kind of recovery your body is designed to achieve overnight. This applies whether you are rebuilding after illness or injury or simply trying to improve how well your body performs. For most of human history, nighttime looked very different than it does today. When the sun set, the only remaining light was from the stars and moon. That darkness was not just the absence of light, it was a signal that told the brain something important. Night had arrived. The nervous system knew exactly what to do. It shifted into a different physiological state. Heart rate slowed, blood pressure dropped, stress hormones decreased. This nightly shift is one of the most powerful recovery mechanisms in the human body. But the modern environment has introduced a signal the brain never evolved to interpret correctly: artificial light during the night. Inside the retina, there are specialized cells that detect light differently than the cells used for vision. When these cells detect light, especially blue wavelength light, they send a signal directly to the brain's circadian clock. This clock is located in the hypothalamus and is called the Suprachiasmatic Nucleus. Think of the Suprachiasmatic Nucleus as the conductor of your body's biological orchestra, coordinating rhythms across metabolism, hormones, immune activity, and the autonomic nervous system. Even relatively small amounts of nighttime light can activate this pathway. This means the brain may receive a message that daytime conditions are still present. Once the circadian clock receives that light signal, it begins adjusting the body's physiology. It communicates with endocrine, metabolic, and the autonomic nervous systems. The autonomic system regulates heart rate, blood pressure, breathing patterns, and metabolic activity. During the day, sympathetic activity rises to support movement, attention, and performance. This shift is often small enough that we don't notice it consciously. At night, the balance normally shifts toward parasympathetic dominance. It allows the body to restore metabolic systems, repair tissue, and prepare for the next day's demands. Blood pressure drops and heart rate slows. This nightly reduction in cardiovascular workload is sometimes called nocturnal dipping. And the research on what happens when this pattern is repeatedly interrupted is striking. Nighttime light exposure can alter the normal nighttime slowing of heart rate and lowering of blood pressure. When circadian signals are disrupted, this nocturnal dipping can become less pronounced. Over time, persistent disruption of this recovery pattern has been associated with increased cardiovascular strain. This is why circadian disruption is not just a sleep problem, it's an autonomic problem. Melatonin is often described as a sleep hormone, but it is more accurately a circadian messenger. When the brain senses darkness, the pineal gland releases melatonin, signaling that nighttime recovery processes should begin. Light exposure at night suppresses melatonin production. Studies consistently show that exposure to blue wavelength light in the evening can significantly reduce melatonin release. This means your body receives a weaker message that it is time to enter deep recovery mode. Nighttime recovery is also when the body resets metabolic regulation. During healthy sleep, insulin sensitivity improves and metabolic systems recalibrate for the next day. Research examining large population data sets has found a consistent association between nighttime light exposure and several metabolic and cardiovascular conditions. In one large cohort analysis, individuals exposed to higher levels of nighttime light had higher rates of obesity, hypertension, and diabetes compared with those living in darker nighttime environments. These studies do not prove that light exposure directly causes these conditions, but they suggest something important. Circadian disruption appears to influence metabolic regulation and cardiovascular stress in ways we are still learning to fully understand. The body can interpret nighttime light as a stressor, and when the brain registers a stressor, it tends to shift physiology in that direction. More arousal, more sympathetic tone, and less overnight downregulation. Repeated night after night, that pattern may contribute to inflammatory strain in ways we're only beginning to map. Pain, fatigue, and brain fog are topics we'll explore in future episodes. Sleep is also when the brain performs one of its most important maintenance functions. During deep sleep, the brain activates a clearance system called the glymphatic system. This system circulates fluid through brain tissue and helps remove metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking activity. When sleep becomes fragmented or circadian signals become disrupted, this clearance process becomes less efficient. The result can be subtle but noticeable: mental fatigue, reduced focus, brain fog. A recent large population analysis found that individuals exposed to higher levels of light during the night showed significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety, PTSD, and bipolar disorder, and notably, higher rates of self-harm. This type of research cannot prove direct causation, but it reinforces an important pattern. The brain appears to function best when nights are truly dark and days are bright. Circadian biology also influences DNA repair and cell cycle regulation, which is why researchers are investigating possible links between long-term circadian disruption and cancer risk. For anyone recovering from a sports injury, brain injury, or critical illness, nighttime recovery becomes even more important. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and rebuild function, depends on sleep. Tissue repair and metabolic restoration depend on sleep. Sleep also influences molecules such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which support learning, memory, and neural adaptation. Progress occurs during the recovery that follows. That's when you heal and grow. Whether you are rebuilding after a stroke, training for performance, or simply trying to show up better tomorrow, the biology is identical. The only question is whether your environment lets your nervous system do its job. The goal is not to eliminate modern technology or artificial lighting. The goal is to restore the environmental signals the brain expects at night. The good news is that your circadian system is remarkably responsive. It's constantly scanning the environment. Give it what it expects, and it begins to recalibrate. So, what does this actually look like in practice? First, brightness matters. The circadian system is particularly sensitive to short wavelength blue light emitted from phones, tablets, and LED lighting. Reducing bright screens in the hour before sleep significantly reduces melanopsin activation. Second, contrast matters. The circadian system functions best when days are bright and nights are dark. Exposure to strong daylight during the morning helps anchor the circadian clock, which makes nighttime signals more effective. Third, bedroom darkness matters. Even relatively dim light during sleep, from televisions, hallway lights, or outdoor light entering the room, can influence the circadian rhythm in sensitive individuals. Fourth, consistency matters. The circadian system stabilizes when sleep and wake timing are relatively consistent from day to day. When these signals align, bright days, dim evenings, and dark nights, the autonomic nervous system transitions more easily into parasympathetic recovery mode. And that is the state where the body performs the work that restores tomorrow's capacity. You came into this video wondering why you still feel depleted after a full night's sleep. Now you know where to start looking. If there is one idea I want you to take from this video, it is this. Don't just focus on how long you sleep. Begin prioritizing quality. That difference quietly determines how much energy and capacity you bring into the next day. Thank you for joining me. I am Dr. Moving Better. If this was useful, leave a comment below and let me know what you want to see next. Build reserve before you add load. I'll see you in the next episode.